Minister von Bülow that was talking in 2002 about this?
I'm not sure about the 2002, but I know the minister, von Bülow, he was talking about it, and the reason he was talking about it is because he knew that Lufthansa, the German national airline, had a number of Boeing 747-400 aircraft delivered with the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot installed. And from my experience, Lufthansa and their mechanics, which they don't call them mechanics, they call them techniques.
Yeah.
But they're some of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. I would just say if you compare German cars to other cars, you can assume that German engineering and German mechanics on aircraft are top-notch also. They found the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot. Lufthansa objected strenuously.
Yeah.
Lufthansa paid $800 million to rip the Boeing part out, and then they had the Luftwaffe design a flight director to replace it. The reason Germany went to this expense is they did not want the United States of America to be controlling German airplanes, and I think they're absolutely right.
So it's a bit ironic, perhaps, that now the German government is calling for this to be put on all aircraft, and in fact Germany is going to end up with it if they don't already have it, and of course you're suggesting that they do.
Well, they apparently had it on that Airbus, and that Airbus was a Lufthansa Airbus when it got so many cycles. And for people who don't speak airline talk, a cycle is simply a takeoff, a pressurization, a descent, and depressurization, and landing.
Yeah.
And what happens, it's like if we had a balloon right here at sea level or wherever we are, and the balloon was full to 40 psi, and then we ascended, the size of the balloon would get much bigger because the internal pressure still be 40, but the external pressure descends on a scale. As altitude climbs, the pressure lessens and the balloon gets bigger until it goes pop. This aircraft that crashed on the 24th of March of 2015 had a fair amount of cycles, but at the time it was transferred, plus or minus weeks or months, but roughly at the time it was transferred from Lufthansa to the regional carrier German Wings, it had its useful life extended administratively by doing a bunch of mechanical inspections. But I'll stand by my original statement. I think Lufthansa's maintenance is one of the best in the world.
Yes. So anyway, this aircraft crashed, and what do you think is the reason? Why did they? What happened here?
I think,
is this a reinsurance job?
Oh, certainly. In fact, that's a very good question, because do you know the name of the insurance company that had the insurance on this aircraft?
No.
Alliance, A-L-L. You've heard it?
Oh, yeah.
If you check all the airplanes that have gone down in this batch of 13, and the batch of 13, you can Google it because I've written about it on the internet, and I refer to it as the Baker's Dozen.
Right.
Because Baker's Dozen means 13 in some cultures. In the first one in the Baker's Dozen was Adam Air 574 in Indonesia on the 1st of January of 2007. The last one, I'd like to think it's the last one, but so far the last one is German Wings. And in there we've had 13 aircraft taken down with the signature of the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot with two exceptions. Speedbird 38 at Heathrow in January of 2008. That was taken down with FADEC, in my somewhat expert opinion. And I have to credit the British Airways crew. The co-pilot, or the first officers flying the airplane, they were on short final landing at Heathrow, and both engines, in pilot talk, they say roll back. What they mean is both engines failed.
And they were trying to say that was due to engine icing?
Well, that's really nice, because cold air is up high and warm air is down low. And if there had been ice up high, it should have melted by the time they're down low. So, engine icing could make the engine shut down. To shut down simultaneously, maybe not, because usually it's really an inexact science. If there's ice crystals in the fuel, the fact that there would be the same concentration of ice crystals in two engines that are 30 feet apart, I think it's unlikely. But if there's a guy pushing a button to kill FADEC in both engines, then they're going to fail simultaneously. Conjecture really doesn't help at this point. What we know is that both engines failed on final. The co-pilot was doing such a fine job of flying and managing energy. most people that haven't flown airplanes don't realize that what pilots really are is geometry experts and energy managers.
Yeah.
But the co-pilot was sitting there, he felt the airplane slowing.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really good that the captain didn't take the airplane, because the FO had the feel of the airplane.
Yeah.
And he could manage it. And he managed it to a safe enough collision with the ground that nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
And the airplane was trashed, but there was not one fatality. And an airline pilot's first job is safety, even though you just heard me criticize the Airline Pilots Association because they know everything I know.
Yeah.
I've told them everything.
Yeah.
And yet they sit there and they do nothing.
Yes. And of course, the other case that you mentioned is MH370/17.
Mm-hmm.
And I put those together because it seems to me that those were not two separate incidents.
I don't think they were. And it's rather grim, and I don't even like to talk about this, but if somebody doesn't talk about it, it'll never get fixed. The 239 people aboard Malaysia 370 were very likely dead when the aircraft landed at FJDG, that's military and ICAO talk, for Diego Garcia.
Yeah.
And when the aircraft landed at Diego Garcia, at 6:51 in the morning of March 8th of 2014, the 239 humans aboard the aircraft, it's my feeling they were dead due to the ATI. And if I'm right or I'm wrong, it really doesn't matter, because when Malaysia 17 went down, there were two populations of bodies. There was a population of around 230 plus decomposing bodies, and there was a population of about 40 bodies, and this is really eerie and evil, but the other 40 bodies were fresh killed bodies with no blood. And the condition of the bodies, the media has us believe that this airplane was struck by something at around 31 to 33,000 feet.
Yeah.
If the bodies had started coming out at 31 to 33,000 feet, they would have been, at least the first couple of layers, would have been flash frozen.
Yes.
So when you hit the ground, it's like ice.
Yes.
But that's not the condition of the bodies. The bodies were intact to a large degree. And the first responders, including a Russian woman named Anna, A-N-N-A, she had a camera, and she was taking photographs and video of decomposing bodies. Mike, I'm not a scientist, but if the bodies fall from 30,000 feet to the ground, they're going to look just like this. They're not going to decompose.
Indeed. And those bodies, of course, taken off to the Netherlands. And in fact, interestingly enough, the BBC 2 nights ago on the radio, it was Radio 4, were talking about this, and the family's absolutely destroyed by the fact that they still haven't received their loved ones back, and they're still looking for remains at the scene. And what they were saying was that what they're trying to tell the families is that there's nothing left of their loved ones, that they're finding little pieces of bone or little pieces of this or that, but they're not finding intact bodies. So you got to wonder what's going on there. They're obviously worried about what they might be handing back.
They should be worried, because Malaysia 17, once again, bears the signature of a BUAP. I'm not satisfied that there were human pilots in that aircraft. And of course, who am I? Well, I'm nobody. Just like you're nobody and the others in this room. We're really nobodies in the view of the people that are killing people indiscriminately and airliners time after time. Of the 13 airliners that I've written about, there are 1,600 plus innocent deaths. And at the very least, the crime should be wrongful death in every one of these cases. You can't prove murder, although murder is the charge, because it's premeditated murder, with the exception of Malaysia 17, because those people were all dead when it took off from Amsterdam.
If it took off from Amsterdam. Did it take off from Amsterdam?
That's
Something
what's
took
reported.
off from Amsterdam.
It could have, but how do you know?
Yeah.
A drone, and people think that it's unlikely that an airliner could be droned. I don't think there's very many people in the world that are not familiar with military drones. And a military drone can take off in any weather condition and fly according to their endurance, they can fly.
Well, they're refueling them in midair.
Well, they're
now.
doing that now, and they're launching them from aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
I just want to get personal